Let me first of all just thank the Westside Health Authority for the opportunity to be a part and be engaged in this conversation. If I was at church, I'd probably say I'm just a poor pilgrim traveler going through the land. If I was a group of activist-oriented people, I'd probably say that I'm an activist who managed to run for public office and got elected. If I was talking to a bunch of senior citizens, I'd probably say that I'm my mama's baby and my daddy's son. But I really say that I'm a very fortunate, blessed individual to have lived, worked, been involved, been engaged, and have some great experiences trying to help the world become a better place in which to live. I grew up in a little town in rural Arkansas where there were about 250 people in the town. But we didn't live in the town. We lived on a farm out in the countryside. And so obviously they didn't count all of those people in the census. Cotton was the primary occupation that people could work at in our town. So everybody picked cotton. I mean, when I went to college, my buddy and I used to cut classes sometimes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Those were light days. We'd only had 2 classes. They would be 2-hour classes. And we would go out and pick cotton to have a little money. Or we'd go out on a Saturday morning for football games and that kind of thing and pick cotton until noon. Well, I was fortunate that I learned to read at a very young age. And reading just fascinated. And every little smidgen of Black history. Sometimes I'll be at church and I'll mention Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Job, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and those guys and all. But I also learned about Tucson Overture, Frederick Douglass, Phyllis Wheatley. It was in July when I came. So I had to, my little money was running out. I had to get the first thing I could get, so I started looking for other things. The first thing that came up was a restaurant. And I worked there one day. And at about the end of the day, the gentleman said to me, he said, "Boy, could you clean that table over there for me?" And I said to myself, I really didn't come to Chicago to be no boy. In the meantime, about a couple of days later, I did get called to come to work at Spiegel's, a warehouse. I went there, and then a little later, I got called to go to work at the post office. But then I knew that I really wanted to teach, and so I quit the post office and started doing the most wonderful work I've ever done in my life, and that was teaching young people. Well, Neil Simeon was the associate superintendent of schools for the city of Chicago. And he had designed this program for overaged underachievers. And these were kids, many of them were reading at 4th and 5th grade level, even though they were teenagers. Many of them had gone to St. Charles or Geneva. These were the correctional facilities for teenagers that the state of Illinois was in control of. And that was our school. and they were vice lords. They were Roman saints. I never will forget, we had a shakedown one time and collected 18 handguns and 6 switchblades. You know, kids used to. North Lawndale was a hustling, bustling community. There were thousands of people. There was 125,000 people. But they were involved. North Lawndale had all kinds of organizations, all kinds of groups. The first African American elected to be on the city council came from North Lawndale. He was assassinated. And of course, nobody ever found out who killed him. What his name was, Ben Lewis. I went to the barbershop and I wanted to talk about it, in terms of center. And I remember shh, we don't talk about that in here. So everybody's scared. I'm saying, yeah. And that was kind of, and I was amazed because I say that's the way politics is. This is Chicago. This is the big city. I mean, this is Ramboogie. This is where people said if you came to Chicago, you could do what you wanted to do. You could say what you wanted to say. And so I began to get involved in community activity. I started teaching GED also at night. And there was a woman who convinced me to leave the Board of Education and take a job as the director of the Greater Lawndale Conservation Commission. And that was my entree. It was when the model cities was being developed. So this business of Black history, we revere history, but we really look forward to mystery. See, one of my favorite songs is Blessed Assurance, Jesus is mine. Oh, what a foretaste of glory divine. Watching and waiting, looking above. But this is my story. So mystery, when I talk to young people, I try to talk to them about mystery. History oftentimes is thought of as his story. When I learned to read, I learned to separate words. Miss Beatty taught us to separate words, and we could learn to understand them. So for many people, history, his story. But the real deal becomes my story. This is my story. This is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. So if we can teach our young people that creating a story, creating a life, creating a legacy, not what they did, not what A. Philip Randolph did, not what Mahalia Jackson did, but what did I do? I mean that I do anything to add to that. And I've got much more of an opportunity to do it if I will. If I will. The song that Dr. King used to love so much, if I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with the word or song, if I can steer somebody right who might be traveling wrong, then my living, then you've been worthwhile. People, I've known some of the best people in the world. I got a guy who lives next door to me, his name, George. George is I don't do much snow shoveling and stuff. My sidewalk looks, uh, it's clear, it's clean. There's salt on my steps, on my porch. George, that's who did it. That's who made sure that it is done. The creation of brotherhood and sisterhood, I think, starts with a spiritual base. And I learned something about the business of love a long time ago. It's called agape. And I was taught that what it really means is I'm not loving you only because you love me. I'm loving you because I have a need to love. That I got a need. And so oftentimes when people think that somebody's doing something for them, people think I'm doing something for them. I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it because I have a need to do it. If I see you laying in the gutter and I can help you up, I'm helping you up because I have a need to do it. You're in the penitentiary. I didn't agree with what you did to get there. But I need to try and make sure that you have an opportunity to turn your life around, to do something different. And so if we can teach the message that the Master taught, then as Dr. King would say, our living will not have been in vain. That's what Black history means.